I keep thinking that the leaks are gonna stop for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and I keep being wrong because we have a ton of stuff to cover today regarding the brand new Pokemon games. Let's dive in. All right, so we do have some spicy leaks to talk about, but first I want to talk about our newest friend, CYCLIZAR here. And Riddler Coup, our established kind of leaker in the community, one of the two, has actually posted a picture of CYCLIZAR with present under it, and then looking at Koraidon and Miraidon as being past Paradox and future Paradox forms. They then go on to say, and this is an important part, meet CYCLIZAR, the mountain Pokemon. The Pokemon has lived in many Paldean households since ancient times. Ancient, let the ancestor statement go to die, okay? So I think this is important. There's a few distinctions here. One is this is indicating that this Pokemon CYCLIZAR has been in the region for a long time. So this idea that one of the legendaries is like a past form of them is not necessarily correct, and it seems like we may not have like a full interpretation of what these Paradox forms actually mean in the context of the game. Centra goes on to say that a reminder about this consideration, it's one of those things where Solgaleo and Lunala could be considered to be Ultra Beasts, but they officially aren't Ultra Beasts, and the same thing for Koraidon and Miraidon. They could very much so be Paradox forms, but maybe they're not like officially declared as being that. It's almost just implied, right? So some interesting like distinctions there in terms of how this Pokemon functions, but regardless, the Riddler does indicate that there is some sort of a relation. I don't think it's going to be a straightforward relationship where you have CYCLIZAR and it like evolves into one of these forms. I think there's going to be some sort of a new way or a different way in which we obtain these legendary Pokemon at the beginning of the game, right? Because they're obviously different, and it's something that's going to separate us as the protagonist from the rest of the people in the Paldean region who are riding around in their little motorcycle lizards. Speaking of Paradox forms, I think there's a really interesting discussion to be had about the post that Riddler Coup made, calling them urban legends. And it's interesting to look at the different Paradox forms that we've had that have been kind of teased or leaked through images like Jigglypuff, like Amoonguss, and what those could actually be related to. We have the user Salem on Twitter who actually posted some really interesting urban legends like Bigfoot, Black Cat, Mothman, Dracula, Frankenstein, Invisible Man, Dr. Hyde, Werewolf, Mummy, the pterosaur thing, Nessie. So obviously this is just someone's speculation, but I think that there could be some good directions here in terms of what these Paradox forms are actually inspired based off of, especially considering, well, we know that, you know, obviously we have this Jigglypuff who looks kind of like a Dracula type of thing. We've got this Amoonguss who kind of looks like it could be related to a swamp monster. And then we know Volcarona is going to be making an appearance, which very much so could be related to Mothman, and a handful of others, right? So I think there's something to be thought there, that there's a tie-in between what the Riddler is saying regarding urban legends and kind of how that could play a part in terms of what these Paradox forms actually ultimately be or turn into when all is said and done. I gotta tell you guys about a sweet deal going on. Right now, you can use code ADRIVE to get 30% off your G Fuel purchase, and that's for today only. Once today's over, you don't get that opportunity. I drink G Fuel every single day. It's a great blend of vitamins and antioxidants that'll keep you fueled and energized throughout the day. It does have caffeine in it though, so I recommend 18 and up, so just keep that in mind. But there's 0 sugar, only 15 calories, and it tastes amazing. You can check out my flavor, Shiny Splash, which is a blueberry lemonade. Super refreshing, super smooth, it tastes amazing. We've sold out a bunch of times. You can check it out in the link in the description, or head over to G Fuel, pick up some Shiny Splash or some other flavors, and use code ADRIVE to save 30% off. Couple updates from Centra Leaks regarding the leaks here, and there's actually quite a bit, right? The Tumbleweed Pokemon is apparently grass and another type. The new worm Pokemon, which was kind of hinted through the trailers as digging underneath the ground, is apparently a steel type worm, not a bug type, which we kind of knew for a while. The leaker says that the coin Pokemon aren't hard to find, although I didn't think Spiritomb is very hard to find. They did glow very well at night, although its evolution is difficult to find, so I'm not sure how that plays out. I would think that you would get the evolution if you just got all the coins, but maybe that's not the case. Excluding the Paradox Pokemon, the hardest Pokemon to get in the game is apparently Primeape's evolution. We don't really know what that mechanic entails yet, just that it's going to be difficult to get. The thing is like Pokemon in the past has introduced very strange, unique kind of evolution methods, going back to like Malamar and Inkay evolving with the DS upside down and a dark type in your party or whatever. Or maybe that was Pangoro and mixing things together. But nonetheless, and then obviously Runerigus being one of the craziest evolutions we've ever seen. Who knows what Primeape's evolution could be? Maybe you have to throw your Nintendo Switch into the ground and break it. I don't know. But it's going to be apparently the hardest evolution to get. We know of a new Fire-type Pokemon that apparently evolves into a Warrior or a Blade, depending on the version. And I guess both Sinistea and Bronzor drop a new item when defeated. Previously, Bronzor was known for farming metal coats. I guess that's not going to be the case. but I guess you have to get 10 of these items from Sinistea or Bronzer to ultimately evolve it into a new fire-type Pokemon. This makes me wonder if Sinistea and Bronzer are version exclusives, just because we know that the evolution is version exclusive, so like, it kind of makes sense that maybe Bronzer drops the item that gives you the blade, and like Sinistea gives you the item to give you the warrior. I don't know, just some thoughts, kind of brainstorming off the top of my head. Apparently all Paradox Pokemon are double type, which I guess aligns with what we've seen so far, and some of them actually change their type compared to Pokemon they're based off of, while others preserve the typing. So that's interesting to note. So far we've seen like the Jigglypuff and the Amoonguss. We know of Volcarona. We know that apparently Volcarona getting this Paradox form means it loses its bug typing. What would Volcarona's other typing be? I don't know, but it's certainly intriguing. And then it goes on to say that Paradox Salamence actually swaps its flying type to something else. So Salamence going from dragon flying to dragon and whatever. So I don't know what that's gonna be, but it's interesting to think of these different Paradox forms and the fact that they could have totally different typings and look very different or very similar to what they currently look like. Seems like a weird approach from regional forms, but I think as we kind of get more insight as to what these Paradox forms actually are and why they're in the game, like story-wise, then maybe it makes more sense. And they also post a reminder that the Paradox Pokemon are brand new Pokemon. They're not forms, right? Like these are not regional forms. These are considered new Pokemon with different names. So definitely worth noting, but they look similar. So I don't know, very weird stuff. And then they go on to say that multiple OP abilities got nerfed hard. For example, some can only be activated once per battle now. So like Zacian's Intrepid Sword apparently only works once per battle. Then it goes on to say that apparently Kyogre will be in the game and will be a threat and competitive. So I don't know, generally like legendary formats come later in the process, but that's interesting to note. Zacian's Intrepid Sword only working once per battle is interesting as a nerf. It doesn't like completely knock it down from a VGC perspective because you could just lead it and just not switch it out, but definitely worth mentioning. Then we go on to talk about one of the things that I'm most excited about is the Kamen Rider inspired Pokemon. The Kamen Rider inspired Pokemon is thought to be a new bug type Pokemon based on the Kamen Rider, and from what we've heard from Riddler Coup, it has a new type combination that has never been seen before. Now there's only 3 type combinations for bug types that have never been seen. Bug Normal, Bug Dragon, and Bug and Dark. These 3 types do not exist yet. And I think that the Bug Dragon is probably the most likely of the 3. I have my fingers super crisscrossed because I've wanted the Bug Dragon for a super long time. The Riddler had some thoughts on this being a husbandomon, which is not a word that I like to use in my vocabulary, but I'm just quoting here. So what does that entail? I don't know, but I don't think Dark really resonates with the idea of the Kamen Rider, and Normal seems a little strange. So maybe, just maybe, Dragon is the type. Again, my fingers are crossed. A gimmick of the gym leaders in the Elite Four this generation is they use Pokemon that are not of their type, but they actually terrestrialize them. I love that if that's actually true. This is from Centro, but reported from Kaka. I think that's really dope, like facing a bug-type gym leader or a grass-type gym leader, and they send out, I don't know, like a Talonflame, but then they terrestrialize into grass or bug-type. I think that's actually really cool, so I do hope that that's the case. That's a nice little gimmick and like kind of a cool idea. They then go on to say that even though Zacian's ability was adjusted, it's not in the game, but maybe it's in DLC. Protein, which I always say wrong, apparently got nerfed. I don't know how you nerf that. Maybe instead of changing stabs, you don't get full stab on it or something. I don't know. It seems weird how you nerf that. Maybe you can only change once while you're in battle per turn or something until you switch out. It says most old pseudos are in the game, only 2 didn't make it. So the thought right now that the 2 didn't make it are Metagross and I believe Como-O, I think, are the 2 that most people are speculating that didn't make it. Metagross and Como-O, Metagross and Dragapult, I think, are the ones that people are speculating are missing from the game. We don't know for sure, but that's the thought. So it's probably 2 of the 3 that I just mentioned. And then it goes on to say that Paradox Pokemon are not ancestors nor descendants. The word should be taken more literally, a paradox. Then there's just a few like small translation notes here from Pokisutami, our wonderful translator, saying that there's nothing special about the Scarlet and Violet starters apart from moves, so indicating that they don't have like new forms or anything, which is expected since we know that the terrestrialized Pokemon don't have new forms. And then apparently there's a mice couple or mice family that's a normal type, and then it was confirmed with a picture that it was indeed a normal type. So expect a normal type like mouse Pokemon. And then last but not least, Pokisutami gets a question, or Kaka gets a question about the horsehair crab, and the reply was this animated image here, this GIF or GIF. You guys can let me know which way you pronounce it in the comment section below. of this guy like hiding under a rock. So that's Crystal, but who knows what that ends up being. So that should be everything you guys need to keep you updated for the news and information today. Don't forget to use code ADRIVE to pick up some G Fuel, available now. My code runs at 30% until the end of the day, so take advantage of that. Let me know your thoughts on all the leaks and everything in between, and I'll keep you guys posted if anything drops later this week. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.